Welcome, level uppers, to another live reaction time. I'm one of your co-hosts for today, Andrew Midori, alongside the classy douchebag, Michael McLaughlin. Thumbs up, nice. And we're gonna be doing Daredevil for the first time ever.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, we are. That sounded kind of dirty for some reason. I don't know why. Yeah, we are.
Yeah, we are.
Oh yeah. This is our first time doing a Netflix show, so this is really different for us because typically, it's a weekly thing, but we had to decide what are we going to do here. Are we going to spread it out to 1 week, 2 weeks, a month? We decided we're doing like 4 episodes a week right now, but we are curious throughout the show tonight, guys. Let us know if like this is too slow for you. If you would like us to do 6 episodes a week or try and do it all in 1 week, which might be a little tough. But maybe we could try to start doing it in 2 weeks as opposed to four in the future. So let us know how far along in Daredevil you guys are tonight, and we're going to be doing episodes 1 through 4. And spoiler alert, of course, for those 4 episodes, the fourth one does end with Wilson
Intensely.
Fisk, Kingpin slamming the guy's head in the door until it falls off. So that is like the stopping point for you guys. That is where we are not going past that. That means you guys please don't talk about anything past that. We're going to try and keep it unspoiled for people that don't know.
Yes.
Let's get right into it, I guess. This is something that we've been excited about for a while since the original teasers. We knew that this had a lot of potential to be really cool because it's on Netflix and there's really nothing holding it back.
I actually underestimated it. I actually did not give it the credit that it apparently deserved, and I really didn't think it was going to be very good at all. Just seeing at the random slew of TV shows, not to say that Arrow and The Flash are bad per se, but they're just not on the level that this show brought it to. And nothing showed that and emphasized that more than probably the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, we've
Um,
got on screen right now the first 15 minutes getting right
right.
into the accident, which causes Matt's blindness. But they handled this from the very beginning. I was like, the cinematography, the way it's shot, I was like, this is a show that looks to have a budget like an
Yeah.
HBO type show, not like something you would see with Powers, for instance. Which
No.
the moment Powers
Oh my
started, I was
God.
like, this looks low budget.
Right. And I don't know how because they put so much money and emphasis behind it, but it's whatever. This
Yeah, it's
show
whatever.
really it is because this show delivered everything I wanted to from Powers. The whole drive for Powers with me was all right, great. I'm getting this really gritty, deep dark crime drama, with superheroes. That's exactly what I wanted. And lo and behold, it blows. But then suddenly out of nowhere, from the back pocket comes Daredevil, which, like I said, I didn't give it any credit. And it started off like I said to Dean in the chat, I said this was easily one of the best first 15 minutes of a show I've seen.
Yeah,
Just because it starts off
it hooks
extremely
you.
intense.
It definitely hooks you. It grabs
Yeah.
you really quickly. I also like the casting. I thought the kid actually does a really good job, and we'll get to that especially in the second episode when he's doing the suturing, the
Mm-hmm.
stitches for the dad. He really did a great job with that scene, and the dad too. Did you think he was a good choice for
I
Jack
liked
Murdock?
him. I liked him. I didn't. I'll be honest with you. As much as I know about superheroes, I didn't really follow Daredevil. And it wasn't really a thing that struck me as, oh, I want to follow this series and this story. And so I don't know if this strays or stays on point from the origin that's true to comics and everything. And I know it's changed multiple times, but the dad, I think, for the route that they wanted to go, I think he did great. I think he did a really good job. He's
I
gritty,
agree.
he's dark, and he's not over the top. If I don't know very many people who grew up in a poor area whose father was a boxer, so I have nothing to base this on. That being said, I feel like he embodied that of which I would imagine he would be like.
Yeah.
Correct?
The first episode, it gets going pretty quickly. It starts off with him talking with the priest and kind of talking about the dad and his boxing career and how he was always, he was losing often. He didn't have a very good record. And that's something that the movie did too, because that's really my only knowledge of Daredevil is the
Right.
movie. And, Jack Murdock and that, the same story is told with him, being paid off to lose matches. So I would
Mhm.
imagine probably the comic is the same since both the movie and the TV show tackled
Right.
that origin the same way and the way you lose the dad. I was a little disappointed that we lost Jack Murdock so quickly in the show. I hope that he comes back. I don't know yet, so I know you know. But in the first four
You'll
episodes, once he dies in the second one, dies, in the flashback, you don't see him again for a little while.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it doesn't impact the show in such a negative way. He told the story that he needed to tell, and I'll be honest with you. What was the last? Yeah, actually, no. You saw the episode that you needed to see with where he decided to turn it around and actually win the fight.
Yeah.
And everybody cheers his name. And I thought that that was a very good way to get a send off for that character. He
Sure. Yeah.
kind of showed how he was an okay father, and he was like a little wishy washy. And then it was like, and then he's like, oh, is he gonna redeem himself? And he did, and he ended it on a high note for himself, and he
He
sacrificed
did
that.
it in that like he wanted to do what he said. He wanted to have that one moment where he won and his son saw him won and he heard people
Right.
chanting his name. But at the same time, when I was watching that scene, I was like, "You're leaving your son, like you knowingly are doing it." And I know that he thinks he maybe is not the best person to raise him, and he calls up a woman, I'm guessing the mother, and says he's going to need you now more than ever. But in that moment, I was just like, "Wow, like you are knowingly abandoning your son, essentially."
Yeah,
Go ahead.
and it's interesting because it will lead on into something else later in the series a little bit. But for right now, all we see of Jack is that. And that's kind of the last thing. I agree that he's leaving his son, but at the same time, it's kind of redeeming. The only other way that he could have done it was to keep throwing and try to explain to his to Matt in a way that didn't make him seem like he was a loser or anything like that. But it wouldn't hold as much weight as what he did. It's impactful, but things turn out okay.
Okay. Let me welcome some new people to the room. We got Super McNasty and Dante's Inferno. Welcome to the show, guys. We are talking about Daredevils episodes 1 through 4. I'm here with Mike, of course, who watched the entire series, I think, already. Is that right, Mike?
Yes, I
So
did.
I'm watching it as we do these. Like I'm trying to keep fresh. And that's why I stopped at 4 the moment that happened. Let's talk a little bit more about 1 and how
Mhm.
it really gets quickly into seeing him as Daredevil. He's not named Daredevil yet. He's the Man in
No.
Black, which is like that reminds me of Lost. But he just wears a black mask and the black uniform, which works really well for what he's doing at night. Stalking in the darkness, kind of Batman style.
Right, and it's very vigilante,
Yeah.
which is a tone that carries throughout. And it works really well. What's interesting is what's really funny about this, what I loved about it is most superheroes do almost the opposite of what he does, where he has his whole top of his head covered, whereas they have holes out and everything like that. He's like, I don't need this. What do I need the holes around my eyes for? So it actually adds an interesting look to his mask. And
Yeah.
one thing I'm going to bring up that if you know anything about the comics or have a keen eye for things, you'll see certain symbols through it that kind of hint to something else later on coming. But his mask itself is also very resembling of that of Iron Fist,
Okay.
someone you know is coming later on in the series.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it's very telling. It's a different color, but it's very similar to how Iron Fist's mask is as well. So I feel like that's a little homage early
I'm
on.
not really looking forward to his red suit. I personally really, really like the black costume, and I think that the red one, first of all, doesn't make sense. It's going to be bright, and it doesn't like why would you want that at nighttime? And second of all, as he said, it would lower his agility, and Claire says later on that it would raise his armor, which is also important, of course. But I kind of wish that he had a black costume instead of a red one, and I don't think that it is exactly what I wanted from the Daredevil costume. I kind of, like I told you before, I think live on our Level Up show, I kind of was hoping they would go very close to the comics with just this very simplistic, plain fabric type costume.
Well, you've seen the costume itself, right?
Yeah, I've seen the costume itself. Yeah,
All
and it
right,
looks
so I'm
like
not going to
hockey
give
pads
away.
almost. Like,
There's reasoning behind it.
okay,
I will tell you that there's reasoning behind it, and it's not as negative as you think, and it will build up. So I'm eager to see what you think later on. I agree, but at the same time, you can't have every superhero go to black. Granted,
sure,
I know he doesn't, but the Arrow, his costume, his suit is more dark color than it is the green that he was normally known for. And Batman, I mean, his costume was all black, but his was even more like most of the bat suits had some sort of gray in it and this and that. His was all completely slate black, and it was I feel like black is just too overdone. Yes, it makes sense, but it's also, I mean, you got to remember this is not realistic. It's
sure.
as realistic as possible, but it's not realistic.
Let's get into some of the other characters. We have Foggy, of course. The character from the comics. Everybody knows
Fulton.
Foggy, of course. And
Fulton.
they, in this version of Daredevil, they are opening up their own practice.
Mm-hmm.
Murdoch and Nelson, right? I think is Foggy's last name.
Nelson.
And at the very beginning, their first case it happens because this what's her name? I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Not Claire, but the redhead from True Blood.
Yeah, I can't remember what her name is.
For some reason, her name is just escaping me right now. But she shows up looking like she committed murder, covered in blood, and that is their first case. And there's this whole conspiracy between this United company that she works for. She's like an accountant, and she knows something that they didn't want her to know. She has the flash drive, and that's how we meet her character. I don't know if she's from the comics. Do you?
She is not. She was kind of a made up role. There's a couple people that here's the thing: the comic has changed multiple times. And talking with the guys from Power Up, that the only few characters that you know are 100% true are Fisk, Murdoch, and Foggy,
Yeah.
as well as Ben Urich. So those are the only actually four. So those are the only four that are true
And
to
her
the
name
comics.
is Jessica. Dante's
Jessica.
Inferno. Just let us know.
Thank you, man. But certain characters like that have appeared in different forms in the comics as well. So they're not completely new, but they're not 100% true to the comics in every vein.
Sure. I like Jessica though. She gives that
Mm-hmm.
little bit of a bubbliness to the show that's kind of needed because it is very dark. And there's
Yes.
also a little bit of I don't know if I would call it a love triangle, but I am kind of curious what side she's going to go towards because she's been hanging out with Foggy a lot in the first couple episodes, and they have this kind of cute banner going on. But in that
I
very first episode,
never.
when she's looking at Matt and she's saying, "But you listened," I felt a little bit of flirtation there as well.
I don't think so. I think you're seeing it a little bit differently. I never saw a situation.
Okay.
Matt ends up having his own thing going on anyway. That
With
you start.
Claire, potentially?
Yeah, well, you started seeing like the flirtation going
Yeah,
on
I
with
saw it a little
Matt.
bit. That seemed more like
And
he actually legitimately cares about Claire. In
right.
the final episode of this arc, I think was it episode was it 4 or 3 where Claire is captured? I
Three.
think that's 3, right? And that was a scary moment.
Yes.
When they're like beating her with a bat, like saying they're gonna break her legs and stuff, and Matt
Or no,
finds
was
out.
that four? I'm trying to remember
I
now.
think it was 3.
Okay.
But in that moment when he gets to her at the end and he saves her and he holds her and he says, "I've got you, I have you," and like you can really see in that moment like he definitely cares about this girl.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was definitely a pretty impactful moment for them. It's almost like a turning point, and you see that relationship start to develop even more because they have this closeness, this bond, because she knows who he is,
Yeah, now
and
she
everything like
does
that. Right.
eventually.
And this is the person that he can confide in a way
Let's
because
get
he
to
can't
that
with
real
anything
quick
else.
though. The introduction of Claire. At the end of the first episode, he's at the top of the roof and the child is stolen. And then the beginning of the next episode, you don't see what happened. It was off screen, but he tried to get this kid back, but was set up, and
Right.
they beat the hell out of him, stabbed him, threw him in a dumpster. And Claire, a nurse, comes to his rescue, pulls him out, brings him back to health, and through that they form this relationship where she's one of the few people that knows what he is doing. And I think their relationship is probably my favorite on the show so far.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really built up well, and I mean, to get someone like Rosario Dawson to fill that role is a pretty big step. And
Yeah.
they did right by that role. And that one again is one of those ones that was kind of created for the show because she wasn't really a true to the comic type character. But that said, she's almost pivotal for him. How else is he going to get fixed up? He doesn't really have any way to go about getting healed when he gets into a situation like this.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny where, apparently he flipped out when she was, or not apparently, he actually flipped out when she was about to call the cops or call the ambulance and everything like that. And she's like, I
Yeah.
don't want to have to explain this later when you're bleeding out in my apartment.
My favorite part of their relationship too is her kind of starting to understand his powers, if we want to call him that, but him using it to smell the guy's cologne and to know that there's
Yeah, that was
a
awesome.
scared boy listening in on the upper floor, and then like in American Psycho style, taking the fire extinguisher, holding it, and dropping it on the guy's head. Like the second
That
episode,
was
I think might be
one of
my
my
favorite so
favorites.
far.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts in the thing, just because it showed how precise he's gotten to it,
Oh yeah.
and how well he's crafted his skills and everything.
That's also a little bit of a weird thing about the show too, is there's this disparity between him as Daredevil and him as Matt, and I don't know if he plays up his blindness every now and then, but like when he's crossing the street with Foggy, Foggy holds his arm. And like stuff like
Yeah.
that, like he needs his help. But considering everything else he does in the show, like I would imagine that he knows every single car coming.
Yep, you're
So
100%
is he
right.
playing it up, you think?
Um, I'm gonna say yes,
Okay.
and it's kind of funny because there's a couple cool things that happen later on in the show that kind of go into that a little bit more in depth, parts that you haven't seen, I guess.
GFN says, I think that he's talking about Claire, but I'm not sure. He says she's true to Marvel Comics, but she wasn't originally involved in the Daredevil storyline.
Huh.
Her vigilante name is Night Nurse.
Oh, okay. So that would make a little bit more sense. And when I was talking to Power Up guys, I think it was Kyle who brought up something about that, but we were getting way off topic as it was already, so we kind of rushed it along. So I asked him about it a little bit more, but that's interesting. And Ben Urich, who you've seen already a couple times in the show, is pivotal in Marvel because he's actually the reporter that the superheroes kind of go to a little bit. He's involved with a lot of superheroes as well.
Is he a black guy in the comics or a white guy?
I don't know. I don't know that. I don't remember.
I like that he's playing him in the show a lot.
Yes, he plays him very, very well.
And him and Jessica seem to have this thing going because Jessica, even though it's very risky for her to continue going into this conspiracy that she's involved in, Ben now is helping her out because she's not giving up. You know, she's still going for it, even though she's risking her life. Ben is going to be the guy that helps her try and expose what's going on with this. I can't think of the name of it. It was something United Financial, or I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, I can't remember what it is. I keep wanting to say United Emirates. I'm like, that's a freaking airline. What the hell, man?
Back to episode 2, because 2 being my favorite. Yes. Once Claire fixes them up and they get the answers out of the guy in a pretty awesome scene where they torture him and shove like a pick into his eye, into his brain, essentially.
That was ridiculous.
Yeah, like really brutal stuff here.
And that's actually at the point where I was like, Jesus, this is way more brutal. I think I don't even remember the chat, but I was like, this is way more intense than I anticipated it being.
Yeah. She fixes him up big time. At one part, I have it on the screen right now, the part where he is not breathing because the air inside of his chest is collapsing his lung.
Yes.
Like, a lot of really cool scenes, and they did a great job of seemingly being true to real life. Like, even Kristen, when we were watching that scene, Kristen being involved in medicine and stuff like that, she's like, yeah, that actually looked really good. Like, the way she did that, that's the way a nurse would do it. Because every now and then she'll be watching.
Or she just kind of glanced at it a couple times?
No, she's been watching the show, too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and she's liking it a lot, too. But in that, because every time she's watching like a medical show or somebody doing ultrasound, she's like, oh my God, this is terrible. They're not doing this right. They're holding the needle wrong. But when she was watching that scene, she was like, wow, okay, that's actually really well done. They're doing a good job with this. So I like that they're trying hard with those kind of moments. But following, getting the answers out of the Russian guy, the Russian mob, that's the big thing on the show. The Italian mob was a big deal decades ago, but now the Russian mob has taken over Hell's Kitchen. They get the answers, they find out where the kid is, and we get what I consider the best part of the show so far, the hallway fight scene.
Oh my God, and I'll tell you right now, that's easily probably one of the best fight scenes that you'll get in the entire series so far. Nothing lives up to the same scale just because of how non-stop and intense it was. And everybody's hurt, including Matt. And he's like beat up, and you can tell it's taking a lot out of him. There are times where he gets knocked to the ground, and he has to like kind of pull himself up, and he's getting a beating put on him as well. And the camera work that they did, maneuvering the hallway the right way. You and I are very big on interesting and cool trick shots, I guess you could say, with cinematography. And we even try to practice a one-shot take for a really long.
It's very difficult.
It's hard too. It's very very difficult. And so for able to choreograph a fight like that and to get it all done, that was intense.
And we weren't quite sure. We knew they were going for the one-shot take, but I thought there might have been one moment where it gets really close to his back that it might have been a cut. But afterwards on IGN, they had an interview, and it is entirely one shot, true to form. No cuts whatsoever, all choreographed between multiple martial artists playing Matt, and at the very end, when he goes into that final doorway, then the actor that plays Matt, I think his name is Cox, right? Something Cox, Christopher Cox? I can't think of his name, but the actor that plays Matt comes out and resumes the role to take the kid. I've got it up on screen right now. I want to play a little bit of this fight scene here for people. Here we go. So it's up on screen now. I'll play about 15 seconds. But it's just so well choreographed because, like you said, he's exhausted. And that's what's so cool about Matt in this show is he's not superhuman. Almost to the point where, like, sometimes you don't even know for sure that he has superpowers. Maybe he just has heightened senses. Because I love when you have a broken down, beaten down hero who's breathing heavy and seems like he's not going to be able to get through and somehow finds a way. Like, I think that's such a cool thing.
Yeah, and it takes so much out of them, and it shows that they're just as fragile as you and I are. They're just a little bit more, they have a little more finesse to it.
His powers is not invulnerability or anything like that. It's just that he has heightened senses. That is it.
Right, and it is a power in a way. he definitely has it more. He's not just a regular blind person. A regular blind person can't do what he can do.
Sure, yeah.
So it is enhanced and it is advanced more than a regular person is. But yeah, you're right, and he's not super strong. And like you said, he just has regular clothes on, which is something
Yeah.
that you like. But this is the issue, and he's already hurt from before. He
He
had
has a
what,
literal
three
stab
cracked
wound. He
ribs?
has like a puncture wound in his side at this moment.
He had three cracked ribs. She said.
Yeah, I know.
So I mean, any punch that he takes, let alone just moving around in general, is going to be painful at the least. And I mean, how long is it? Like I think like a 5 minute fight
It's like
scene.
a 5 minute scene for sure.
Yeah,
From the moment it
that's a long
starts,
time.
you see the Russians going from room to room. You see Charlie Cox. Thank you, GFN, for letting me know his name is Charlie Cox. You see him wander in slowly. Then he goes into the room, and then like a 3 minute fight scene goes through, and then he goes and he grabs the kid and walks out slowly. Looking at the aftermath of the battle. Just when I saw that scene, I think I honestly said out loud, "Wow!" Like that was
Yeah.
really, really well done. Like, wow.
Right. It was definitely one of my favorite fight scenes I've seen in a TV show, let alone multiple other things in general.
And you can't like continuously do like it's a one-time thing. Like I don't think they should continue to do these like one-shot fight scenes. But
They
I think having that one time in the show to have that like old boy-esque fight scene, and then from then on have these other different moments, like in episode 3 where he turns off the lights and is like Batman taking them, like
Right.
away, like into the corners and beating them down. Like I thought that was really cool as well. That was another really well done scene.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't we get into that a little bit? Because at the end of this, he gets the kid and brings him back and everything like that. And now he has a new friend in Claire. But then we see that kind of work in. The Russians kind of get together, and they kind of figure out how to get to her a little bit by using her neighbor who's upstairs. And they kind of go through him to get to her, and they capture her and they bring her to the underground area.
Yeah. In
And
this
that was
episode as
just
well, there's another
Oh,
big.
actually, was that the no, okay, never mind, keep going.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I think the Claire one might be 4 because the third one I have up on screen right now is the one with
Right.
the guy who goes to the bowling alley, and
Right.
attacks. He's hired to attack the one guy. He's clearly very much involved with Wilson Fisk, and doing jobs for him. But nobody will say Wilson Fisk's name. Like it's a very
No.
big part of the show, and for a long time, Matt is trying to figure out who this guy is, who is behind it all, and he feels like he finally has a shot here because originally Foggy wants to turn down this case. Because the
Yeah.
guy who's like Wilson Fisk's representative comes and says, "Take this case, we need you." And Matt takes it because he thinks, "Here's my shot. I'm going to figure out through this guy who we're dealing with."
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it kind of helps to bridge that. Now it's a little bit convenient that he goes to these two. I mean,
He
I
says it's
don't.
because they're new. They're
Right.
completely
I get
clean and not at all dirty.
you need to have some sort of connection, and I get that. I just hate when it's so like convenient, that something like that. But it's kind of cool because I'll tell you right now, Wesley is probably one of my favorite characters on the show. He does his role so well, and his role is so interesting.
Are
Throughout
we
the
talking
show.
about are we talking about Kingpin or
No, Wesley.
Wesley?
The guy, the one, the lawyer. The right hand man to
Oh,
Fisk.
is that his name, Wesley? I actually didn't
Yeah,
know what his name was. I feel like
yeah.
they don't say his name too often either.
They say it a lot. They say it a good amount.
Yeah, he's
He
interesting. He's intimidating, but he's also like he has that like nerdy look at the same time. But the voice and stuff, he definitely has a commanding presence. So I agree with you. I think Wesley is an interesting character, and he's obviously very, very loyal to Kingpin. And I think that's what makes him interesting. Is he's the guy that Wilson trusts most. I
Yes,
think it seems like.
yes, and they're good friends, and it kind of goes throughout as well. They're together all the time, so it's definitely again it's a pivotal relationship for the show throughout. But that being said, in this episode, you see this guy, and he's clearly, not a great guy in any way, shape, or form. So, like
No.
you said, Foggy doesn't want to take the case. He doesn't like it at all. And Matt just like kind of puts together as he goes outside. He kind of listens in and hears the same music that he heard earlier, and it kind of intrigues him, for the whole situation with what's her name with Jessica and everything. So he's like,
Yeah.
we're gonna take it. He knows that there's something there, but he can't tell Foggy, so they take it. They go in, and this guy just doesn't want to defend himself. He just wants to go for it.
Yeah.
It actually makes a very entertaining issue during the court scenes and everything like that later in the show, which is very entertaining to me. I like when they did that type of stuff where they'll have like the law stuff into the show. I
Yeah.
like that. It
Because
adds
they
a
do
little
a good
bit of
job with it. It's like a good episode of Law and Order. But not just that, this episode is very much explaining the corruption. This how
right.
corrupt this city really is. How far Kingpin's reach goes. That two of the people that were on the jury turned out to be I don't know what the word was, messed with. The first one he's able to get off. He hears a heartbeat when the clock tick starts, and he's able to remove her from the jury. But then later on, it didn't matter. There was another old woman on the
Right.
jury that replaced her, or was there the whole time,
She
that
was
was
there the whole
also
time, and they
affected.
got to her afterwards. He said,
Yeah,
"I'm going to take care of it," and they got to her. And the whole time it's very entertaining because they're supposed to be defending this guy, and he's just smirking at everything the prosecution
yeah,
says
because he knows he's going to get off.
right. He's going to get off no matter what. So Matt, his last speech was pretty impactful, and it was obviously a jab at the client. And it
Sure.
was very, very entertaining to watch something like that. I like seeing stuff like that.
Yeah, that was a really well done monologue, well acted by Charlie Cox. But he wants him to get off the hook too, I think, because he wants to be able to interrogate him afterwards. And that's what happens the moment the trial ends and this guy's off the hook. He goes and fights him, and then we get another really cool fight scene because every person they
Right.
hire on this show is clearly a martial artist.
Oh, absolutely.
And yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying it's really funny that every single person in the show knows martial arts in some form.
Yeah.
Even the stereotypical Hell's Kitchen cops are
Yeah.
prevalent in some form of martial arts, which is odd to me.
But this scene was a gruesome scene because while they're fighting, he almost
God.
gets Matt's face into the fence, this jagged spike that's sticking out. But when he does get him to, like, he's breaking him down, he's interrogating him, and he gets him to say the name for the first time ever. He hears Wilson Fisk, and at that point, the guy's like, "I'm already dead." Like, he's
Right.
going to go after my family. He's going to go after this, go after that.
Right.
And he's like, "Why didn't you just kill me?" And then he goes over to freaking Spike and
just
slams his
headbutts
head into it through his eye and comes out the back of his head.
And that's actually what it was that I remember now. And I was like, "Jesus, this is freaking brutal." And afterwards, like we didn't talk about with everybody, but Dean even messaged me. I mean, it was intense, man. Like that right there showed me they were not gonna play around. I mean, I already kind of figured it out, but that really showed me they were not gonna be playing around with this series at all. They have no problem with gore. They have no problem with being over the top when it needs to be. When it makes sense.
And I also really like how much they were building up the fear of Wilson Fisk at that point. Like, because you hadn't really met him. I think at the end of the third episode, that's the first time you see him in the painting gallery. I don't think you even get to see his face. You just see him from behind.
Yep,
But they were really building up that mystery. For anybody that doesn't know the comics, I imagine this was probably a pretty cool moment. It's like, ooh, who is this guy? Like, who are people so afraid of? Who is this Wilson Fisk?
Right. And I'll tell you right now, for people that like the comics, you see the back of them, and immediately because of the way that it's shot, it's a little bit misleading, but it's welcomed. It was perfect. That was, as soon as I saw the back of D'Onofrio, is that how you actually say his name? D'Onofrio or Donofrio?
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Apostrophe. I'm going to say D'Onofrio. There's apostrophe, but when you see the back of his head, you're like, oh wow, this is Fisk. Like, this is the Kingpin. This guy is big, and you see him looking at it, and he starts talking to what's her is it Elizabeth?
The girl at the gallery that he quickly falls for. He really likes this girl.
Yes.
We see that a lot in the fourth episode, and it becomes this big deal at the end when he loses her because of the Russians. We'll get to that in the fourth episode. I think I saw a question in the chat room just about reaction times in general. If we do game reactions, like, are we going to react to the Battlefront vid?
Yep.
And somebody said that we only do TV shows. That's not entirely true. We do a lot of TV shows and stuff like that, but we do want to do those big moments in games as well. Those will come here and there.
Yeah, I don't really like doing stuff like that for trailers. I mean, we can start doing it if you guys want to, but I don't like things that take longer than the actual source material themselves.
Yeah, right.
Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Why don't you just watch the source material over and over again?
And I also want to thank our first follow of the night, Pocho Los. I think that's how you say it. Thank you so much for following our show. We do reaction times, gaming streams, gaming talk shows all week long. Anybody else who's new in the room right now and doesn't know who we are, follow us right now on PlayStation. Hit that little heart button. Your name will pop up, and we'll shout you out, of course. Let's move on to episode 4. This was the one. I was wrong earlier. Yep. This was the one where Claire is captured, where we get to know the Kingpin a little better because, I think her name is Elizabeth. He's going back to the gallery.
Vanessa.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Oh, Vanessa, sorry. And he's getting to know her a little better, and he's wooing her, but he's not the type of person that typically does this, and she recognizes that. He comes off a little bit creepy, but also he's he's very attractive in that way, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Like his creepiness is attractive.
He's well, and this is something that I'm not sure I liked, and I didn't like it in this episode at the least, and I did at the same time. I don't know. This is something I'm having a problem with in the series. Is his character portrayal of Fisk, and I know Kingpin Wilson Fisk more from Spider-Man than I do from Daredevil. Obviously, like I said, I didn't
Okay.
follow it, but he's not. I mean, I'm okay with them giving him a different personality like they have. I don't know. I was afraid this episode kind of was like, all right, this is interesting. I like the way they're going with it. I'm still gonna say I'm gonna be on the fence about it. I mean, obviously he's a little soft spoken. You know, he's going for the whole speak softly and carry a big stick, which is kind of funny because Kingpin's thing I guess is a big giant cane that he's supposed to have. It never shows up in the series, but he definitely speaks softly. He's very humbled. When around women, that's his weak point. And it was very interesting to see. But yeah, he has more power when he's talking to Wesley or anybody else, any of the other villains who we didn't actually go into that. That's actually a big key thing we kind of glossed over. So now that we're talking about Fisk, this big guy, Wilson Fisk, played by Vincent D'Onofrio. Why don't we go into the supporting cast? You already said the Russians. We have the two brothers who, in the beginning of this episode, you saw as well. They were escaping from Russian prison.
Yeah, in Moscow.
In Moscow. Or no, they wanted to go to Moscow. They were in Serbia, I believe.
Oh, that's right. Yep, Serbian prison.
Yeah, they were in the Serbian prison. They said the one brother said we were going to go to Moscow, and the other one said no, they were going to start over in the USA. You see those two, and like you said, they're very big. They're running the drug and the smuggling operation. In the first episode, the first time you see him fighting really is when the pivotal part of that episode is when he's freeing the women they're trafficking. From the crates
really
and
messed
everything
up.
like that. This show goes all
Human
over.
trafficking is such a messed up concept. Like you see it in like movies like Taken and stuff. And every time I see that kind of storyline, I'm just like, this is like I can't believe this exists. Like this is so messed up. And it goes along with the show though because they're not holding back at all, as we said earlier with this show. The Russians, as we were saying, the Russian mob is a pivotal part of the show and something that Kingpin. I shouldn't even call him that because as GFN says, he's not the Kingpin yet. This is his origin story, and he thinks it's going to become a lot darker. He'll become Kingpin, quote, later on in the series, probably.
Yeah, I think you see him. Yeah, I'm not going to get into it. We'll talk about that another time, another reaction time. But the Russians themselves, they're brutal. I mean, obviously they're from Russia. They don't hold back. They're kind of like the strong arm of the group right now. Then we have what's the Yao? What's her name?
Oh yeah, you also have the Asians.
They're two different ones. They're not connected at all. But the older woman, I think her name's Yao. But she's this sweet looking old lady. When I say old lady, I mean 90-year-old woman. Like walking around in a cane or anything like that. And she runs the drug operations. You see
that was pretty messed up too. It looks like they blind all the people so that they don't know what's going on.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. It looks like they're blinded by it seems like the same chemicals that blinded Matt.
Yeah, it kind of does look like that.
So it was very interesting seeing that. She's kind of one of those fear me and because you respect me type situations. That's actually kind of the essence you get from her throughout the whole thing. She respects Fisk and Fisk respects her. Which is kind of interesting. Then you have the other one, Nabu, who you don't really know what his role is other than he's an architect of some sort.
He's a martial artist, obviously, is what he is, right? Because I feel like that was one of their things when they were planning the show. It's like we should have Asians. Because Asians know martial arts. That's right.
But the only thing as of up until the first four episodes or anything like that, and for quite a few more, the only real purpose he serves is being the Asian version of Ted Mosby. He doesn't really do anything other than that.
Yeah, right.
That's all you know of him. But he's very angry all the time. He's not one to hold back his yelling. And then you have the accountant, and I can't remember his freaking name in the show. But he's somebody that people will recognize.
Is he an accountant or what? Because when they in the first episode where they give the flash drive to the editor of the newspaper, it then seems like he has the flash drive.
What do you mean?
Remember at the very beginning of the first episode when they capture the guy at the end, they have the flash drive and they put him on the steps of the newspaper, I think, because it says for editor on the on the thing on his chest. He has like a envelope on his chest with the flash drive inside of it.
It just transferred into another scene. This guy, you're thinking of somebody completely different. They
Okay.
gave him to Yurik, Ben Yurik, essentially.
Yeah, that was what was confusing to me. Is it seemed like they gave the flash drive to the editor, and then you see the guy because on the chest on the envelope it says for editor.
Right. And that's going to be, that was a completely different scene. So that scene
that confused me.
Then it went to another scene with the other guy, the accountant.
Okay.
By the way, the woman, it wasn't Yao, it was Gao, not
Yao.
Yao.
And he was also talking about, again, Kingpin, how he says in Spider-Man, his role is much further along as a crime lord. And this is more like...
I'm hoping to see that in many ways. And I like that. Oh, spoiler alert, don't look at the GFNs.
Yeah, I did. I saw Nobu, and I have no idea what's coming after that.
Ignore that. Rick.
No spoilers for anything after episode 4, guys, please.
And but then you know, so you have the accountant, and his whole role is to kind of move around the funds. He kind of gets all the money needed and everything like that, and gets everything available for Fisk to have ready. But anyway, so we have all that. So you now have the Russians who are kind of annoyed after the last couple episodes. So they go out of their way, like I said, to find out how to find Claire, how to get to the woman.
They go to the guy that was tortured by Matt, who is now in a coma. They take what's it called, epinephrine, and stab it into his heart. Because even though they know it's going to kill him, they just want to bring him back for a moment to ask him the name. And they do get him awake to find out the address. They go to Claire's apartment, even though she's cat sitting somewhere else. They find the boy who lives on the upper floor. They beat him half to death to get the location of Claire. They capture her because at this point the Russians are desperate. They want to get rid of this guy, the man in black, because he is causing them so many problems.
And they also have an ulterior motive, it seems. They don't like Fisk. They think they're going to be able to do their own thing very soon. And Fisk has a problem with them as it is. So they're trying to kind of prove, the one brother doesn't like the way that they're doing it, but they're going up against it anyway. So they end up kidnapping Claire and keeping her in the bottom of a garage. To flash back a little bit, it keeps going back and forth between that and then the relationship that's building between Fisk and Vanessa. It's very interesting. It's very pivotal for the series because you do see a more humble side of him. And he courts her, he takes her, he finally buys a painting. He said it makes him feel calmer. And
I think it's called Rabbit in a Snowstorm.
Rabbit in a Snowstorm. That's what it was called. It makes him feel calm. It calms him down. And I don't know if they've explained why yet. Did they get to that in this episode? I think that was a different one.
He says that it's romantic, and she says that it's sad, and he says I'd rather think it's the former or something like that.
I think it's the next episode. I think it's episode 5, and they explain why he likes the painting.
Okay.
But anyway, so at this point, he ends up taking her on a date, and the one brother. Well, we'll go back. At this point, Matt has then, taken it upon himself to go and find Claire and then attack the Russians and free her. And like you said, it's a pivotal point.
But before we get to that, let's talk about the other relationship that develops in this episode. We get a lot more of Ben and Jessica.
Of who?
Of Ben and Jessica. Their relationship is developing a lot in this episode as well. Because once again, he was trying to push her away, but since she kept coming back, she went to like an auction trying to prove where the money is coming from, trying to find the source. He goes there of his own accord, actually, not knowing that she's there, doing the same thing. They come in contact, and at that point, he's like, all right, I'm going to do this along with you. We're going to be in this together. He tells her to take the money. They're, this United National or whatever is offering her money to be quiet, and he's like, take it. And she's like, but I don't want to be quiet. He's like, you can be quiet because I'm going to be the one who's the voice at this point. He's the editor, of course. So they've got this cool relationship now going on, and they're going to be trying to uncover the conspiracy behind the money. At the same time, everything else is going on. So I think that's another interesting part of the show.
Right. And it's Karen, not Jessica. I don't know why I said
Jessica. Somebody said Jessica earlier.
I thought so. I don't know why. It was Karen.
Okay, Karen. That sounds better. I was wondering why. Yeah. Sorry, Karen is Jessica. We've been saying that the whole episode.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that. That was actually built up in this, and that's kind of like a recurring thing throughout the series. It kind of leads again. It makes a bigger impact on the show as you go on. But right now, it's definitely kind of forming this almost coup. They're trying to expose something that's obviously been gone out of their way to be hidden very, very well. So yeah, it's actually kind of building a relationship. He doesn't want to do it. He doesn't think that there's anything behind it at first, and then, he saw her perseverance and everything like that, and her determination, and he likes that in her. You can
Sure.
tell that he enjoys that, persistence.
And as you were about to get to, let's get to the garage scene. I touched on it a little bit
Yeah.
earlier. Claire is getting closer and closer to death. They're trying to get Matt Murdock's name out of her. She doesn't actually know his name at this point. She's calling him Mike the entire time.
Right, yeah.
At the end of this episode, he does tell her his name is Matt, but at this point, they're torturing her, they're beating her, they have a bat ready to break her legs, and then right before they're about to slam her, the lights go down. And as I said, in a very Dark Knight-esque way, he is coming out of the darkness, pulling one by one the Russians away and beating them unconscious, throwing wrenches to knock them out. Like, just another really cool scene here.
Right. I loved every minute of it. It's not, you already have the brutal, full force action that he had in episode 2 in the fight scene in the hallway, but this is more of that tactical version of what he can do. He can hear, he can see better because he can hear everything going on around him. He can sense everything going on around him, and I love that. I love the mixture of the two. Seeing that yes, he can battle if he needs to, but he prefers to take everything by stealth when he can, and this was perfect for it. Claire escapes, hides under the thing. The one Russian kind of grabs her up and holds her at gunpoint, and Matt kind of takes care of that.
I love too, like how his voice, like even as a viewer, you can't tell where he's coming from. Like I don't know how he's doing it, but he's doing that kind of thing where you can like dislocate where your voice is coming from because he's like right next to the guy, but he sounds like he's far off and stuff like this. Like really cool stuff like that.
Yeah, he's throwing his voice all around.
Yeah.
But like you said, he ends up getting her back. It's a pivotal moment for them too because it shows this connection that they have, shows that he really cares about her. And it kind of sets up that for the rest of the show. That relationship that they have there. And obviously in defeat though, of them, even though it's good for Matt, it's not good for the Russians. And they quickly feel the pressure from Fisk and the rest of them. And they have a disagreement between the two brothers. The one decides that he needs to go to Fisk and apologize and make peace. And that proves very poor choice for him.
Before we get to that, we're about to get to that final moment of the episode. We do have 26 people in the room. Thank you so much for joining. We have people that have no idea what we're doing. We're talking about Daredevil, episodes 1 through 4. We're getting very close to the end here, the final moments. If you like what we're doing and you don't want to miss the next one, make sure you follow the show right now, live from PlayStation. Hit that heart button. So as you were saying, the Russian decides in a not the way he should have. He should have called, but instead he goes to the restaurant where Wilson is having dinner with Vanessa.
Right. And obviously she doesn't know what he does. He's trying to keep it very secret. And this kind of throws her off a little bit. She doesn't know what to feel about this. And it makes him very uncomfortable. And he ends up just leaving and brushing by as if nothing's going on, but he just has to leave. So they go. It ends up kind of throwing a wrench into the whole equation between them two. Standing outside of their building, he said, so what do you think of me? She's like, I honestly don't know what to think.
And that really upsets him. Like the point where he almost like looks like he's about to cry. Like that much. It affects him.
Right, he's very taken by her, and it doesn't really ever explain why he's so taken by her so quickly. But there's definitely something in her that he sees, he cares about, he enjoys her company. And so this is very upsetting that they basically go in and part ways, and you're not really sure if you're going to see her again or not. And this really upsets him. So he gets in the car and grabs the Russian to talk.
Yeah, to talk, right? The Russian, you can see he's a little nervous in the scene. He's not sure what to think. He definitely has a little bit of a worry on his face, and rightfully so, it turns out, because we get the first look at the combat when it comes to Wilson Fisk.
It was so funny the way you do it, because the Russian is riding in the car with Wesley. They're talking, and he's like, "Yes, we're here." All of a sudden, you just see the car door open, and you see this really angry Vincent D'Onofrio just like reach in and grab the Russian and throw him out of the car. And they instantly go into it. And of course, for a big fat white guy, he knows kung fu as well a little bit. It seems.
It's definitely not the martial arts that we've seen previously in the show. He's more just like brute force. Like he's throwing the guy around, he's beating him like heavy hands for sure. The guy does get a slice on his jacket, on his suit coat, which of course bothers Wilson. He likes to look good. But yeah, and the scene ends. I'm not going to show it. I'm going to take it off the screen so people don't have to look at it. But
No, show it.
he puts the guy's head in the door and slams it like 20 to 30 times until it just falls off.
Oh my God! And it's just you just see blood everywhere, and it's all over Wesley. And by the way, remember that scene with and how Fisk gets hurt, and it kind of explains something later on.
Okay.
In a way, I'm just gonna leave that little tidbit, that Easter egg,
Little tease.
little tease, because it's very interesting. It ties into a lot into the show. But yeah, it was intense, and I was like, holy shit! Like I thought the guy slamming his head into the spike was intense. This is way further than I ever expected this to go.
Because it's
Way
slow.
further.
It's just a slow
Yes.
kill of this guy gradually breaking his head off with a car door. Like, Jesus.
Right. Right. And at this point, they kind of know, not only does this happen, but they know that there is an issue not only with the Russians, but as well, there's an issue with the man in the mask, the devil of Hell's Kitchen, they're calling him.
Sure.
Because he's causing a lot of issues for them. They touched on it a couple times in the last episode, in this episode, and so they know that they need to do something to kind of try to fix this problem that they're having.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, this was an intense way to end the episode. I mean, a head just being pulled off of a guy with no form of this brutality you've seen from anybody so far. I mean, the head spike thing is one thing, but this was kind of taken to that next level.
Yeah, this is brutal. The guy, you can definitely see, because the crazy thing about Wilson is he acts like he's a good person and he's trying to make the city better. He says this in the conversation with Vanessa, and he comes off like he actually believes it. So, like,
Yes,
you can,
he
is very delusional in that sense. Like, he's making his city better, but he has this really twisted anger inside of him that comes out at the end here, and we can see the villain that he is.
I'm very interested to see your take on the next 4 episodes. That's all I'm going to say.
This was a perfect spot, I think, to end our first part of the reaction times with this crazy moment, seeing the power of Wilson Fisk at the end here. But overall, first 4 episodes, what were you feeling at this point? Were you really fond of this show?
I was hooked. I know you saw it in the chat room, not the chat room, the G chat. I was hooked on it, and Dean actually yelled at me. He's like, "Damn it, you son of a bitch! None of us have watched this yet. Shut up!" Like,
Yeah.
he wanted to watch it, and I was totally taken by it. I blew through the other few episodes within, I think, by the next day or two, as many as I could, as quickly as I could. I flew through them. I was taken by it. Overall, I love the show.
I'm opening up the Batman vs Superman trailer.
Yes, so am
as
I.
well.
So,
We might as well go through that, right?
Absolutely. I already have mine queued up, and I am good to go whenever you are. So just let
I'm going
me
to try
know.
and open it up on a full screen here, so people can actually see it, and we can actually turn this into a little reaction time all its own.
Yeah, so tell me when you're going to hit play, because I'll do it at the same time, because I can't see your screen. I don't have it popped up.
Okay. Let's see. Can I make this full screen without... Okay, hopefully people can see right now, because I'm going to switch back and forth between us talking about it and showing the actual footage, because I don't want to show it the entire time just in case our archive gets flagged. But let's get started. I'm starting it right now. So here we go. We're going to go through a little bit of the official release of the Batman vs Superman trailer. This is our first time watching it, at least mine. How about you, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't want to watch the other version.
Is it really surprising that the most powerful man in the world should be a figure of controversy?
We, as a population on this planet, have been looking for a savior.
We're talking about
Ooh, that's weird.
Who's very
Right.
existence
So we've got like a Superman statue
challenges
here.
our own sense of priority in the universe.
Human beings
Here, a
have
little
track record
hesitation on that.
following people with
Yeah.
Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Absolute power corrupts. They're treating him like a god.
We know better now, don't we? Devils don't come from hell beneath us. They brought their warrior. They come from the sky.
The world has been so
Ooh, that's a cool
powerful,
shot
what
there.
they do,
I like that a
Looking
lot.
up at Superman. And here I've seen an image of this. It actually
I have
says
not seen
false
that.
god on the
Wow.
Superman statue. Who do you think put that there?
Fever, the rage,
Oh, God. Wow, he looks
the
good.
feeling of powerlessness.
Oh man, there it is. There's a shot of him looking at the bat suit. Looks great.
I want to hear his voice. Ooh, what was that?
Ooh, is that a bat wing or there? There's a Batmobile. Oh man.
Oh, dude,
he looks massive. He looks absolutely huge. And there he is in the armor at the end. Very much Dark Knight Returns there.
You will.
Oh, wow, and the question that he asked. Tell me, do you bleed? You will. Damn. Wow.
Oh boy.
2016 for you there. Coming out.
Late 2016, early 2016.
Let's go through this a little bit again here. Stop at moments throughout it. Go back and forth. So I've got it up on screen. We're looking at the statue, slowly zooming in on it. I think it's really cool. Who do you think put the false god on it, though?
You know what? I think it's. I mean, I think it's humanity. You hear throughout the whole thing, and I know you're talking a little bit. I'm not sure if you heard everything, but throughout in the background, you heard the voices of regular people just saying, you know, they brought their warrior, and you know, all this stuff, go away, stuff like that. They don't want him. There's definitely some resilience met by him, and I think that's actually going to be led and kind of headed by Lex Luthor. And I'm very interested to see the first trailer with him, just because I think that's going to have a lot to do with that. I don't think anybody commissioned that, but I think it's just a random thing that happened to the statue.
Yeah. What's after that? Let's go through this trailer a little bit here. Our first look, I got Bruce Wayne up here, Ben Affleck, playing the role. He's got the black suit on. He looks older. He's got some gray hair on the sides of his head.
Looks great, because it definitely looks like the end of Bruce Wayne, like for his the Dark Knight Returns series. And I love that book was brutal, and the cartoon movie that they did just as much. So I actually like his look for this. The suit is big buff. He's a lot buffer than I anticipated, but again, fitting with the Dark Knight Returns fits. Actually, if you could switch back to you skipped a scene I think is pretty big. Switch back to scene 40 seconds.
40 seconds. All right.
So you see Superman. You see him going down to this tunnel with these soldiers that have the Superman symbol, the warrior symbol.
And they're actually kneeling to him.
And they're kneeling to him, like you said, like a god. And it's very interesting. And I'm not really sure what to take. Now I don't want to give away any spoilers. I think I've already read kind of what happens and how Lex Luthor fits into everything and Batman fits into everything, and why there's a war between them. But that being said, this is very interesting. I'm really interested to see where this goes. And you hear them, absolute power corrupts absolutely, and it kind of pushes my theory on the movie a little bit more. I wanted to go to. There's another scene.
I'm on 111 right now because I want to talk about our really good shot of the Batsuit here. Because we had some images leaked and stuff, and now we have like a high quality, good lighting. I love the mask, the cowl, because first of all, I like the short ears. I'm fond of the short ears, but also like
constantly angry.
Yeah, he looks angry. I like it though. Like I want him to look angry, and I also like how beat up the actual suit looks. Like I can't tell if that's like been patched multiple times or if that's just the texture it has.
I think it's the texture, to be honest. I do think it's the texture, but I do like. I mean, don't get me wrong. I actually like the Christian Bale suit a little bit more because it is more practical. But this is definitely better to be more fitting with the comics, which is what DC has been trying to push. Even though they changed Superman's suit a little bit, they did in a way that still fit to the comics, a little bit more. And that seems to be their thing. They're trying to stick as true to the look as possible.
See, I'm happy with it because we had our 3 Christopher Nolan movies with the practical, nature of that universe. Like now I'm all ready for Zack Snyder just going balls to the wall insane with comic book action and ridiculousness. I mean, Batman versus Superman in general is already a ridiculous concept. The idea of basically a god being beaten by a human. So
not as much. Did you ever read the Dark Knight Returns?
Yeah, sure. And I know how he beats them in the comics, but still, it's a very far-fetched idea in the first place.
I guess.
But for that reason alone, like I'm okay with this being very comic book-esque.
I'm very interested to see what you think on this because I'm not sure what this scene is about or why they even put it in here. But go to scene 120 if you would.
About to get to it right now. We see a little bit of the Superman symbol there, and then at 120, we're looking at looks like a man. Is it? I'm not sure where it is.
I want to say that's actually Old Wayne Manor.
Maybe.
The more I'm looking at it, it could be Old Wayne Manor, or I'm wondering if it maybe is the old courthouse. Maybe someplace in the rubble.
Is there any possibility that it's the train station from Man of Steel where he killed Zod?
Could be.
I don't think so. It didn't look really like that. It was more big and open than this. But I thought maybe they would go back to that area because it was a pivotal moment, obviously, in Man of Steel, something that bothered a lot of people that Superman killed.
But he's holding something, and I'm not really sure what it is. He's actually holding something in his hands as he looks down. I'm not really sure why he's looking down either, but he's definitely holding. And I don't know if it looks almost like a rifle.
Yeah. Is it Batman?
That's Batman.
Yeah, it looks like Batman. He's bulkier. Well, there's another scene too where it looks like he might be holding a rifle. Let me see if I can find it. It's when he's standing on top of the tower. He kind of looks like he's holding a rifle, or that he's just surrounding. Yeah, he's got a rifle there.
All right, I know exactly what's going on with that situation. Then let's skip over that. I don't want to give anything away.
Yeah, but that's definitely a rifle, right?
I'm going to tell you right now, it 100% is.
Yeah, so that's pulling directly from The Dark Knight Returns.
You know exactly what's going on in that situation. It's going to go that scene and then the other scene.
So that's very interesting that they're going directly with that. And then we're followed after that by another very Dark Knight Returns scene where he's got the armor on. When do you think this will happen in the movie? Do you think this is like halfway through? Do you think this is the climax? What do you think?
I don't know. I think that's going to be towards the end. Because I think, well, I mean, it could be. I'm not really sure. I don't know anymore.
I just feel like it has to be halfway because they have to come back together for the Dawn of Justice, right? In order to fight Lex.
Didn't they say that this is going to be split into 2 movies?
No, that was a rumor. I think it was debunked at this point.
Oh, was it? Okay, I didn't know that. Then yeah, so I mean, that actually, now I think I was actually going to retract anyway. I think that's going to be halfway through, because I think something else that you and I are thinking is going to actually be what ends up happening later on. I'm trying to get a good shot, and I couldn't. I wanted to see the Bat Jet, and it's interesting because it looks more like a jet than anything else.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is. To be honest with you, I've got to wrap up though. Kristen is calling me. I think we got through most of the trailer though. I think overall it was a pretty decent trailer. I wasn't like blown away by it, to be honest with you. It had some cool shots. It definitely is a teaser. I don't think it showed too much, which is a good thing. I'm glad it didn't show too much. But it does definitely whet our appetites.
Absolutely. This is getting me more and more intrigued. I like the voice they're giving to Affleck. I like the look that he has. So I'm 100% sold on it.
Nice.
Not that I wasn't before, but I'm definitely in on it.
And that'll wrap up this really long reaction time we just did. Over an hour discussing the first 4 episodes of Daredevil and now the Batman vs. Superman official trailer release. They leaked it, I think it was either the Spanish one or something got leaked, so they were forced to release it early, unfortunately, as opposed to Monday when they were planning on it. But this is a really cool time to be a nerd. I mean, we've got a lot of really cool stuff going on right now. Daredevil is awesome. We got Batman vs. Superman. We got Star Wars. We got Comic-Con. We got Avengers. There's just so much cool stuff going on in the nerd world right now.
Right. So I love it. I love every minute of it. So thank you for letting me do this with you. I can't wait to see how you like the rest of the season, because
Daredevil,
it's very interesting.
I'm very excited to keep going with it. I think Kristen and I will watch some this weekend for sure. She's enjoying it as well. It's a great show. It really is so far. The first 4 episodes I thought were excellent, and I'm really excited to see if it can keep that level of quality the whole way through.
Right.
All right, man. Thank you so much to all of our viewers as well. I'm not sure how many people are in the room, but I really appreciate you guys watching this entire thing. If you want to follow us, please do. We did have 3 follows today. They were from, let's find out here. We had actually 4 follows. Thank you to, I think it's H4 Adiol, Drop the Autizzle, Gone Off Damali, and Pochalos. Thank you for those 4 Twitch hearts. Anybody else who's new to the show right now and likes what we're doing, we do this every week with game talk shows, game streams, reactions to movies and TV and more. So follow us right now. Hit the heart button live from PlayStation so that you don't miss anything we do in the future. We'll be back on Sunday, of course, with the Level Up Show, episode 70, our big show with the full cast and crew. Mike will be here as well. So until then, take care and level up.
All
right, see you later, Mike.